Okay, so this video is going to cover a application problem involving inequalities, specifically finding an average of a test score when you have missing test information. So taking a look at this problem, it says Paul has grades of 92 and 73 on his first two tests. What must he score on his third test in order to have an average of at least 80? Okay, so what we know about averages is that in order to take an average, we would add up the numbers and divide them by how many we have. For example, if I had maybe 2 and 17 and a 7, and I wanted to take the average of these three numbers here, all I would do is add the three numbers up and divide them by 3 because I have three numbers. So then using that concept here, so we're told that we have test grades of a 92 and a 73. And that's what Paul made on his first two tests. So then theoretically we would just do 92 plus 73. But this question is asking, what must he score on his third test in order for him to have an average of at least an 80? So he wants to have a B. So what does he have to make on that third test in order to make that happen? So considering that when we take an average, we add up the grades and divide by how many of them, and considering that we don't know what the third grade is, we need to think, okay, well, what are we going to put in for that information? Now, typically when it comes to math, when we don't know what something is, or we're just referring to it in general as a number or as something, we use a variable, most commonly x, to represent that. Since this third test is unknown, that is exactly what we're going to do for this problem. We don't know what that test is, so we're going to say that it's x. And going along with how to take an average, if these three were our test grades, we would divide by 3. Now, if we want our average to be at least an 80, so we want it to be an 80, it could be more than 80, that's perfectly fine, but it would need to be a minimum of an 80. So we want this average to be greater than or equal to 80. As long as it's equal to it or above, then we're good. So then we need to talk about, well, how do we solve this kind of problem here? And what we know about solving equations is that in order to solve our equation for x, we need to move things around in terms of the opposite of what we have. So taking a look at this problem, now I have a division by 3. And I know that the opposite of division is multiplication. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. Because multiplying both sides by 3 is going to make this 3 cancel, which is what I want. So I did the opposite to cancel it on the left, which means I would just be left with the 92 plus 73 plus x. And on the right-hand side, I had an 80. We multiplied that by 3, so 80 times 3 is 240. So we're almost done with this problem. The only thing we need to do is isolate the variables, so get that x all by itself. And in order to do so, we can subtract 92 on both sides. It would cancel on the left, and we get 73 plus x is greater than or equal to, well, 240 minus 92 is 148. And subtract away the 73, and we get that x is greater than or equal to 75. So what this is telling us is that in order for Paul to have an average of at least an 80, he must make at least a 75 on that third test in order for that to happen.